We are at this beautiful 3-unit resort in Hill Country, Texas. This short-term rental resort has 3 units. They are safari tents perched 8 feet above ground. They're basically treehouse safari tents. In this episode, we are sitting down with Yvette and Ken to discuss everything short-term rental and how they operate this business with a med spa on it. I am so excited to deep dive into how they built it, how they operate it, and their dream team permitting, and much, much more. I am so excited to show you guys this property. Welcome to Spoon Mountain Glamping. This is Experiential Travel.
Waking up this morning, waking up before it's getting 9. Kinda heavy on my shoulders, tracking down some moments back in time. I could swore that I was in it, down to every minute. Don't know what I was sipping, but I felt like I was doing fine. Oh my. Turns out that I just got a little bit south, just a little bit north of the Georgia line.
Ken, Yvette, thank you guys so much for being part of the Experiential Travel Podcast. The mission of the podcast is to educate and inspire other entrepreneurs to create more unique experiences so that their guests can create more lifelong memories with their loved ones. It's really to inspire other people and break down the barrier of, oh my God, this is so overwhelming, to, oh, actually, I think I can do this. It's try to be in that middle space of helping people, and we do it for free and just try to inspire the people. And I couldn't imagine a better property to showcase and talk to incredible hosts / guests on the podcast. I still don't know what to call you guys because you guys are technically hosts, but are guests on the podcast, than you guys, because this property is spectacular. From a tent that doesn't feel like a tent and it feels like a multi-million-dollar home, to a stunning swimming pool, a bathtub that is the size of a hot tub. From pulling into the property to the end of Spoon Mountain, you guys have thought about everything and have done this property so well. And I'm so excited to learn everything that you guys have done and how you guys have taken not only your beautiful marriage to creating a successful business and everything in between. So thank you guys so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
So I want to bring it all the way to the beginning on how you guys met, where you guys are from, and a little bit about each one of you guys.
You're going way back.
Way back.
We met through a mutual friend here in Wimberley. She's a musician and an artist that manages musicians. So I was done with men. No more. I don't want anybody. I can do this by myself. And she said, no, I got this guy you're going to want to meet. And that's what she was telling him. And we met and literally was married within a year. I decided to give up a house I was building, and I said, I think this might be the one. And I said, okay, I'll move to Wimberley, which had one stoplight at the time. And we've been married now 23 years.
It's incredible to see where Wimberley was to now where it is. How does that make you guys feel?
I'm excited about it. I don't have any problem. When I moved here, there were no stoplights. There was a 3-way stop at River Road, and other than that, no stoplights. It's growing, and I don't mind it.
Where are you guys originally from?
I'm a Yankee. I'm as Yankee as they get. I was born in Queens, raised in the Catskills, but I moved to Texas as fast as I could. I got here in 85. And I've been living in Texas. I have 2 babies that call me mama, so I think that might make me an honorary Texan.
I'm from South Carolina originally, grew up there. Joined the Air Force in 1981, got out in 85, or 84, and then moved here and have been here ever since. So.
Similar story with Yvette on how you guys met?
Absolutely, 100%. This girl kept bothering me at the gym, like, you have to meet this girl. I'm like, yeah, I bet I do. And so finally we met, and that day we sat and talked for like 4 hours, 5 hours, just had no idea that anything else in the world existed. So I think it was kind of love at first sight. We talked about children and how we'd like to have a marriage and how we'd raise children and all that kind of stuff within 10 minutes of meeting each other. So,
what are you guys doing for work?
So I own a med spa, and so we have about 7 employees. So we do everything from Botox to massage, facials, all injectables. And I know that sounds crazy, getting from the glamping vacation rental industry to, because it was completely different for us. But that's what I've done for the past 20 years, is the med spa business.
And I'm a paramedic, and I run the ambulance service here in town. So I have about 17 employees, and we run 2 ambulances 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What made you get this land and choose this land as your
were
spot?
In a little strip center, and it was a great strip center. It was a prior a doctor's office, so it was a wonderful fit for us. But the opportunity, this is on 3 acres, this building with the med spa was, and we looked at it and we said, we're ready. We can buy the building and run our med spa out of this building. And we were probably in for about a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I kept looking to the back part of the property, which was at the base of a little hill in Wimberley called Spoon Mountain. And I'm like, what are we going to do with that property back there? It's just sitting there now making no profit. It just looks pretty, but what are we going to do? And we actually camped there it was Mother's Day weekend.
About 5 years ago.
We looked out and we were like, wow, that's a beautiful view. I didn't realize it had that kind of view here. And I guess the rest is history. We said, we're going to do some kind of vacation rentals. And so the med spa business took off and has been doing really well. I'd done it for a doctor, a family practice doctor, and a plastic surgeon. And I said, it's time for me to do it for myself. So our business as a med spa was doing really, really well. And we said, okay, well, if we're not going to build a house back there, let's put in some, Wimberley's a destination. People come to stay and go shopping and check out our village. So
I don't think that was ever on our radar.
No, not at all.
But I'm going to tell you, when we camped up here that first time, at sunset, the sun went down in between the saddle of those 2 big hills over there. And it's like, yes, we have to share this.
You immediately know.
Yes, it was incredible. We had no idea what we bought. When we got this, it was a cross-fenced horse pasture, weeds, nasty trees everywhere. We camped up here one time, and we were like, yes, everybody needs to see this.
What did you guys camp in?
A tent.
A tent.
Yeah, we're campers.
You just pitched it up.
Yep.
We did, yeah.
Yep.
I love
we
that.
had our kids.
Had a little fire right in front of this tent right here that we're in right now.
Do you think that inspired the structure choice that you guys have?
I don't think so.
No.
I can tell you that story. Yeah. So
we do like to camp, though. We've like when I was pregnant, we tent camped. Having little babies trying to crawl around, we kind of did it backwards. And when they were like 7 or 8, we actually bought a pop-up camper. And then when they were like 10 or 12, we actually bought a pull-behind trailer because we enjoy being outside and going camping and stuff like that. But, you'd imagine to make it easier when they're younger. But, we don't mind toughing it. But I don't think that that's what decided what kind of structure we were going to do.
So I want to get into the structures, but before we do that, I want to really nail down the land. So that med spa was already a med spa when you guys bought the land?
It was a building that used to be a hair salon.
Okay.
It's about 1,500 square feet, just a metal building. And
inside done or?
So someone had bought it and purchased it, and she built it out to be a day spa.
Yeah.
And she just didn't do well. And she, not even a year later, she called me and said, do you want to buy this? And we bought it lock, stock, and barrel. We had
That's
pens
a Texas
and
term
pencils.
I do not know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a Texas term, I guess. Lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It had all the furniture. It had a lot. It had the desk, computers. I mean,
so like fully furnished.
It was fully ready to go.
Everything.
Yeah,
Tables,
pretty much as a med
pens
spa.
and pencils. I mean, everything. She locked the door, gave us the key, and left, and we took
incredible.
over.
Did you guys redo the
We
med
did
spa?
some.
A little bit, yeah.
Knowing
Not
your
much.
taste, you probably came in rules.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. She was really good though. She did a good job. I don't know why she didn't take off. But when you're a small town and you've been providing those services for a lot of those ladies who've moved here from Houston or Dallas, they like to stick with you and they don't really want to go someplace else. So, and we've been living here for so long, I mean, Ken's on the school board as well, and we're really involved in the community. So they know our name, but only because, there's only like 2,000 people in Wimberley proper. So you do know who your neighbors are.
Yeah.
So we were pretty successful.
So you buy the land. How was it nerve-wracking when you guys bought the land? What was kind of the mindset? Obviously it was for the med spa that you guys wanted to do, but
yeah, it truly was the easiest thing that I personally have ever been through. I mean, the purchase went great, it just went right through as if it was supposed to be that way. We moved in and we started making money the first day we were here. And we got
the money from that. We did decide where we're going to sell our rental house. We had a rental house.
Okay. In Wimberley?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we sold the rental.
And that's where we said, okay, we couldn't have done it without doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because med spa stuff is not cheap. I mean, lasers are very expensive. Every machine she buys is very expensive. So you have to have some capital to get into it.
Very expensive, like $150,000 for one machine.
Oh my God.
If you're talking lasers, yeah.
So did you guys buy the land in cash or did you guys get debt on it?
We did have some debt on it, yes. Uh-huh.
And then the down payment from selling the rental was able to then afford this, and then you guys just had a mortgage payment because of the building?
Yes.
Did you go through any type of commercial loan? Was it a residential loan? How was that kind of?
It was a commercial loan, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then the proof of your previous experience doing med spa what kind of went into that?
Yes.
Yes. We'd had about a year and a half of experience to take to the bank.
My own personal experience.
Yeah.
Here's where we are with this.
See, I think that is such a beautiful thing is utilizing previous knowledge, but it's more like previous expertise, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
If you're really good at doing something already, trying to incorporate that synergy with your glamping experience. Mm-hmm. I know that when I come from a marketing background, so I knew that if I could get something up, it can be really not as nice as this, but I can then shoot and photograph and video and develop experiences around it. Therefore, I can highlight the marketing aspect came easy to me.
Right.
So I think that's super important when starting one of these things is knowing your skill set. And someone gave this analogy, I really liked it, is finding the synergy of what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what can make money. Mm-hmm. And if you can fill all three of those boxes, then you're rock and rolling, because it doesn't feel like work at that point, right? It just feels like this is you wake up every day loving what you do, and it feels right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we didn't know that we had a passion for vacation rental part. We were just doing our own things. I mean, with him being an EMS and me doing med spa services, those were our passions at the time. So you do kind of have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit to say, well, what's this next thing that we're going to try to do as an entrepreneur? Okay, we did this. And I will tell you, I'm the more adventurous of the two of us.
Much more adventurous.
And there's been numerous properties in town that I've said, we need to buy this. I think Wimberley is only getting bigger. I've seen it since I've moved here. We need to get that property. And he's a scaredy cat and says, oh, no, I don't think so. And we've missed out on a couple opportunities. And I think when we opened up the med spa and it was successful its first year, and they tell you that most businesses don't even make a profit the first 3 years, but we made a heck of a profit.
That's incredible.
And I said, okay, are you trusting me a little bit more now? And he was still scared. He's still, I do sometimes have to kind of push him.
Do you think that balance of personality is important in a partnership? Not just a marriage, but also a business partnership as well.
I think it's extremely important that she has that more adventuresome side, and I can kind of well, let's think about that. Let's pull back a little bit on that. And, but everything she does, everything she's touched has been very successful. So it's getting easier and easier and easier to go, oh, okay, maybe we could try that. So, yeah.
I love that.
Well, here's what I think. If it takes hard work, I'm used to hard work, right? I mean, you just get up and you go do it. What else are you going to do? You're going to sit in front of a television or play on a computer or whatever. So if you really do love it, like you said, you have to find your passion with it, and you're dedicated to it. You're not going to know unless you don't try. You have to try in order to take that step.
Someone described happiness as overcoming known barriers. And when you have a barrier that you know, and then you're able to overcome it, that people say it's not the destination, but the journey. But it's really knowing, okay, this is the mission, this is the goal, and then how are we going to accomplish it? That moment in the process of doing it is at least how I find happiness.
Absolutely.
I love the uncertainty, the not knowing that if it's going to work, we're risking a bunch, but let's just do it.
Well, I always say, okay, what's the worst case scenario? That's my thing. It's like, let's talk it through. What would be the worst case scenario? Like, we'd have to sell our house, we'd buy a travel trailer, and we'd live in it. I actually like my husband, and I could do that.
It's interesting when you run out the worst case scenario, and then you just sit in the worst case scenario for a little bit. You're like, oh, that's not that bad.
Yeah,
right.
It's not the end of the world. So yeah.
Exactly. What if it turns out better than you could have ever imagined?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so
that's
I feel
wonderful.
like that's you guys. That's amazing. I love that. So you have the land. You tent, and you're like, we need to bring this experience to other people.
Yes.
What led you to the glamping short-term rental space?
Well, I wanted something different. I didn't want just a cabin. Wimberley's full of cabins. Everybody's got a cabin. And I'm like, it needs to be unique. And I literally Googled unique vacation rentals, and up popped the word glamping. And this was probably in late 2018, maybe 2019.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know what that word means. What is that? And so, of course, we started researching. And then in October of that year, we went to the glamping summit in Colorado.
What year?
I don't know if it was 18 or 2019. The first year they ever had it.
I missed you by 2 years.
They'd never had it before. It was
the first year they had
one.
it was in a hotel. There were no
structures
tents outside.
Nothing.
There was nothing. I mean, it was just like, let's talk about glamping.
It is an amazing convention. If anyone is thinking about going, you should definitely go. I'm friends now with the person who puts it on, the owner.
Oh yeah,
and we have a booth this year.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
our tiny homes will be out there in full fledged, and
we
hopefully
should
sell some tiny homes.
We didn't go last year because we had just gotten back from Italy, but we'll probably go this year. So,
well, if you guys go, I'll see you all
there. That'd be wonderful.
All right.
They're going to have you as speakers soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking to the owner, and so his wife, he runs it. It's like they remind me of you guys.
Yeah.
It's husband and wife, and the wife is in control of the speakers. So I might be speaking this year.
That'd be wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love going. So.
Attending that they didn't have like structures. I think they might have had a yurt, and it was in one of their really small inside. It was in a hotel. It wasn't where it is now. And we met this man named Gary Flack from a company called Bush Tech Safari. And all they had was a book with pictures. And he was telling us, he had this really cool South African accent.
Yeah.
And
that'll do it.
Yeah, I know. Well, we started talking, and we're like, because we talked to the other tent companies there too. And I think Ken tells it best about the Serengeti.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to build these things but one time. And Gary said, well, we've had these tents up on the Serengeti for 25 years. I said, okay, they can last 25 years on the Serengeti. They can probably last for a long time in Wimberley. So, yeah.
That's incredible.
So we decided, we literally bought 3 African safari tents at that show.
On the spot?
On the spot, yeah.
That's incredible.
We did.
That's amazing. So before we get into the structures, I want to know more kind of about the mindset of your glamping. And I love the fact that it's like raining a little bit. that I think this
That's
is
authentic.
that's part of the experience.
Yes, it
I
is.
think part of the experience is when you have a tent like this is hearing that.
Yeah.
Because you lose that.
Well, let me tell you, that's why I didn't want walls. A lot of people who buy these tents will put walls at all the sides. And I'm like, you're defeating the purpose of being in a tent.
Exactly.
You can put a chandelier in there still,
Yeah.
but let it be a tent.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't know how great it'll be for a podcast when you're trying to hear over the rain, but
I'm sure we're going to be fine. And if not, then it's just part of the experience. It's I think that's what makes unique structures unique.
Yes.
Right? Is that you get this on a normal home, you don't get this.
Right.
And you hear there's something about raindrops in canvas structure that's pretty magical.
Well, it definitely reminds you that you're in a tent.
yeah.
Because it's easy to forget this is a tent when you're in here because it's just set up, with furniture and walk-in shower and stuff. And then you're like, oh, the rain comes or the wind blows and the chandelier rocks a little bit. And you're going, oh, yeah, this is a tent.
Which I think is a super plus part
Mm-hmm.
of having a tent is being reminded that you're in a tent.
Yes.
And I think that you guys have done such a beautiful job at making the tent not feel like a tent, but then reminded of the tent, which I think is a beautiful place to be in as a guest because you lose the sight that you're in a tent, but then you walk and feel the canvas and you're like, oh wait, there's no insulation in this. And that's awesome. Now I want to get into, a little bit more about the mindset of you're here. It sounded like Yvette, you were convincing Ken that we need to do a short-term rental. How was that viewpoint shift of med spa to now let's run a glamping space? Was it just like, hey, I want to profit the rest. I want to monetize the rest of the land. Was it where was the mindset shift for you guys?
I think it was definitely just that property's just wasting money up there. Let's do something with it. And we started looking at the structures and it's like, those are really cool structures. So let's do this. So I don't think we envisioned what we ended up with. I think we were like, okay, yeah, we're going to put up 3 tents and
we were thinking one. I'm like, well, let's just start with one. And how hard can it be? You build a deck and then you put up a tent. It can't be that difficult.
That is my entire philosophy in life. It's how hard could it really be?
Yeah.
Like I rented a backhoe, no idea how to use it. I was like, I'll YouTube it. And so within a day, I was just running a backhoe.
Yeah.
That's what life is. I feel like that's the American dream.
Yes.
Is how hard could it be? Let's just figure it out.
But then you do get into it and you realize, well, dang, this is really hard.
It's just a lot different than we thought.
Yeah, but it's still, you're on the right path when you still do wake up. I mean, you might wake up 100 times a night in the beginning because you're so nervous about, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But you still are excited about it. And if you've got the right formula, I mean, you've got the right space, the right structure, but Wimberley everybody wants to come to the Texas Hill Country. And then Wimberley itself has 2 of the top 10 swimming holes in the state of Texas. One being Jacob's Well, which is an incredible spring. It's an artesian spring, correct?
Yeah.
And a blue hole, it's called Blue Hole Swimming Hole. And I mean, like they're so booked out that if you haven't already made your reservation, you're not getting in to go swimming there. And they blew up on Instagram and TikTok, and that's all it took. Wimberley was discovered. So we had that going for us. And then we threw in we're going to put in something unique, a little bit different type of structure. And other people in town had the same idea too. So we have some friends that have yurts, and so they're trying the same thing. We just happened to be in on the beginning stage of that unique structure. And we just said, well, why not? Let's just try it.
Yeah, we bought the tents before we had permits or anything.
Yeah.
Really?
And we were just like, we're going to make this work. So.
Do you think that was part of a lack of education in the space, or do you think
100%.
Being naive about it.
If we knew what we know now, we would have done it completely different. I'll assure you.
Our first tiny home, we did the exact same thing. I said, we're in the middle of nowhere. Our county is an hour, or the headquarters for our county is an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
I was like, no one's going to know. So we threw up a tiny home. Within like a month, we got shut down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you just don't know. But you just go. If you don't try it, it may not ever work. So
Well,
Go ahead.
it takes a while to have the tents made in South Africa and then shipped here. And, all that takes a long time. So we thought, well, we should just go ahead and order them and then get the permit in the meantime. Well, we bought them. They sat in a warehouse for like a year before they even got shipped to Wimberley. And then they shipped the wrong tents here and shipped our tents somewhere else.
to Utopia, Texas.
So we had to do this big flip-flop, and
my goodness.
it was crazy.
But in the meantime, we went before city council, and I did this whole PowerPoint, and I thought I was so cool, and I was showing them because I knew we were going to have some kickback, because where we're located is within city limits. And I was going to go in and tell this board of people, we want to put tents up as vacation rentals, and they looked at us like we're crazy. So
I think it's tough though. It's tough because they don't see the vision.
Correct.
And they don't know. If you're just saying that to a board, I understand some negative, because there are some people that just throw up tents and they're like, yeah, this is going to be great. We're going to make a lot of money. Yeah. And so I think that it's an interesting way it's hard to pitch, especially if you don't have proof of concept of going into. So how did that board meeting go?
Actually really well. We only had one person not approve us, but it didn't need to be, unanimous. So that was really good. And
that person's never invited.
I think what really sold them was we said, look, glamping's coming to Wimberley.
Yes.
Let us set the standard. And they were like, okay.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is such a great positioning to...
It's coming one way or another.
Yeah. To bureaucrats that are in charge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me to even think that people can tell you what you can and can't do on your own land.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother discussion.
Yes.
So, yes.
But that is, I think that the concept and the idea of saying, look, we're going to do this properly. And when you're going to want to use us as, you want to put a tent? Come check out.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's the
Spoon
standard.
Mountain.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, the hardest part was the fire marshal. And I'm hearing that that's like one of the hardest things in any kind of build. But, I didn't think that a fire marshal was going to tell us that we had to put sprinkler system in a canvas tent. So,
They made you put...
there
was a lot of work. There was a lot of work.
What did that process look like with the fire marshal?
Well, thank goodness. Let's back up a little bit, because we thought, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this. We got approval. Our tents are ordered. Again, how hard could it be?
Can we take even a step back first and financing the tents?
Yes.
How you have a successful med spa going on where you guys, hey, we want to do this cash. We want to pull out a commercial loan. How did the financing for the actual purchase of the tents
We
happen?
bought the tents with cash. Yes. So we're like, okay, yes, $25,000 a piece. Let's just buy them.
Per tent.
Yeah.
Per tent.
I mean, $75,000 is not a cheap,
It's not.
a startup investment.
It is not cheap.
Yeah.
No, nothing about any of this is cheap. So,
As we found out.
yeah. But then we thought, how hard is it going to be? We had no idea. And then we met this young guy. He was 24 years old. He had just built the EMS station that I house in now. And I started talking to him about it. And he said, we can do this. And
Because they started asking all kinds of questions. The reason why we're telling you about him and jumping ahead is because all of that was done at the same time. So our bank
conversation
package and
Yes.
the bank loan, because this young man, who's pretty remarkable,
he was 23 years old when we started
he
this
put our
project.
bank package together. We had no
goodness.
clue. He'd already built homes and apartment complex and a $2 million EMS building, and it was very, very smart. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're starting to ask us about impervious cover and all these words. I don't even know what they're talking about. And the bank wants to see this. And he stepped in and helped us, because there's no way we could have had the time to learn how to do all those things. We could have. I didn't have the time or the knowledge to be able to do it. And he stepped in and really took over. His name is Banks Chisholm, and he's wonderful.
That's amazing. Let me ask you this, timeline-wise. This is after the glamping convention, after we've already bought in the tents?
Yep.
Yes.
So tents have been bought. You're back. You're on a high because you just bought 3 beautiful tents.
Yep.
You have a piece of land. You're like, how hard could this really be?
Right, yes.
We're going to just put a couple decks out and put the tents on. It's going to be great.
Mhm.
Right.
And then what was the first hurdle? Was the first hurdle the permitting?
More permitting.
Okay.
Yeah, the permitting was by far the hardest part of the whole thing.
Which you're not alone. Every single person I talked to, me included, permitting is the hardest part
Yeah.
of all of this. And it's something that you're not aware of before you start is, so for our county, you can only permit certain structures based off of the zoning that your land is.
Yes.
Is that similar to Texas?
Absolutely, yes. So we were lucky. We were zoned
Neighborhood services.
neighborhood services.
Which is a new terminology
Yes.
I haven't heard before. What
Yeah.
does that incorporate? Is that almost commercial?
It's almost commercial, but
There's a residence also on
Yeah.
your street. There's a couple
Okay.
residences. And the original building that we're in where the med spa is did have a CUP, a CUP, a conditional use permit. So that was really good. So we also had to like change it because this is going to be something in addition to. So then we have a WPDD. So we had to go before the city. And this is when banks took over. And
Okay.
the
'cause-
Wimberley pre-planned development is what we have now.
So the EMS is being already built at this time.
Yes.
You've already met banks, and I'm guessing you went to banks, and you guys went to banks and were like, "Hey, look, this is our vision." And then he was like, "I'm your guy. I can
Right.
help you
Yes.
guys out."
I think he was a little
Exactly.
nervous too, though, because he was talking about tents. What are you talking about? You
Yeah.
know? And it was really hard for him to understand.
But Banks is very adventurous. I mean,
Yes.
he grabbed it and he just went for it. He's like, we can make this work. And darned if he didn't make
Yeah,
it
he
work.
What if it turns out better than you could have
Yeah.
ever imagined?
That's
Exactly.
exactly
I
right.
love- See,
So
what's the importance of having people like that on your team?
It's huge.
we couldn't have done it without him. There's just no way we would be where we are right now. Because I had no idea. I mean, just the ribbon curve on the road and the turning radius to get fire trucks in and, plumbing and electrical and all of that goes along with it. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
These decks are incredible. I mean, you could park a aircraft carrier on these decks right here. So,
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're back from the glamping convention. You're dealing with permitting. You sat in front of city council. Did they approve it after that meeting?
They did approve it.
Okay.
But then they started asking all the questions, and at the same time we were getting the bank approval. And the bank said, look, if your business at the med spa can float the entire loan for what we're going to cost to build the new place, plus be able to pay your mortgage down there, then you can do it. So our loan, which was how much?
$325.
325.
Yeah. $325 for the building that we had down there. And we had paid it down quite a bit.
So you had equity in it already.
Yes. Yeah. So they just rolled that mortgage into the new bank package. So,
And then, so I'm going to regurgitate this so I make sure I get it. You have the med spa. Med spa is cash flowing. You have equity in the land and the property already.
yes.
You would then go to the bank and say, do you know the number that you're aiming for the build out?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So you know the number that you're going for. You then say, the bank says, if the profits of the med spa can handle the mortgage, the finished mortgage of the build out plus this, then we'll approve it.
Yes.
That's
And it
exactly.
did.
And it
Yes.
did, yes.
Incredible.
By far.
So there's a benefit to that because that was able to help this business, the second business, but they are very intertwined, which is now what we're trying to do with separating them and trying to make them both their own.
What's the thought process behind that?
In case we ever wanted to sell, or
Would you sell just the glamping and then keep the med spa, or would you sell it all as
I
one?
don't know. We don't know.
But I think that allows you to at least be able, let me ask you this. Can you parcel off half and half?
We could, but I would probably sell the
it as-
whole
as-
property
Yeah.
That's
and then move the med spa business out to
Yeah.
somewhere else. That's
That's a-
probably what I would do.
And it's probably a phenomenal multiple if you have a pre-existing business that's already running there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay, so you get approved by the county. You're now have a set of cash that you could start doing this construction. I tell people that the number one thing to do when you're starting kind of the look of what you want is to take out a piece of paper and just start doodling.
Yeah.
Start doodling, get what's in here out physically.
It's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yes.
That's amazing. Walk me
Yes.
through that.
Yeah. I mean, literally on lined notebook paper said, because we really didn't have to take that many trees down in here to be able to put the tent. So I literally knew, like, I want one here, one here, one here. I didn't anticipate the road being as big as it was because I thought, you just drive up here. You don't need a big giant road. But I guess an ambulance and a fire truck probably, especially if you're a commercial business.
Yeah.
And being in Wimberley, within city limits, we did have to meet those criteria. So
Ken couldn't pull some strings.
no. And sometimes I think that worked against us, to be 100% honest with you. I think people are like, well, I am not going to do any favors just because of who he is. So it seemed like it was harder on a couple things.
Yeah.
So
Well, look, we're going to make this as hard as possible on you guys, just for the fun of it. That
Yeah.
seems like
yes.
That's
Yes.
exactly what it feels like. But the truth is, I mean, the guy who voted against us, he had a great, valid reason. He's like, I don't want this in my neighborhood, and I have to watch out for everybody else. And we're like, I get it, but I
Well-
promise you, this is going to be a small, intimate facility, and it's going to be beautiful, and people are going to love it.
Well, my mindset on that is this is zoned neighborhood services. It's not zoned residential.
Yeah.
And
change
if-
the zoning if you want.
Yes,
if you don't
which
want
you
it.
should have done a long time ago, or don't live on a street where there's another business already existing that has been here for years. Because it was a hair salon before it was us.
The terminology is NIMBYs, not in my backyard.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly right.
People, and there's Hawaii's dealing with the same thing. Is people want low affordable housing for
Right,
people,
uh-huh.
but they don't want them in their
Not in
backyard.
their backyard.
Not just in
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
That's everywhere in America.
It is, yeah.
Which is it's because it's a little hypocritical if you're wanting something but then you don't want it, you're not willing to go through that side of it too.
Yes.
And I think that, I don't know, I look at what's the greatest good for as many people as it's affecting.
Right.
And you're affecting and giving a better opportunity, a better space to decompress and get out of the crazy world to people that are visiting here than you are negatively affecting neighbors.
Right.
And I think that if you're net positive, then it's a
Yes.
positive thing.
And we try really hard to be really good neighbors and go above and beyond
Mm-hmm.
for the neighbors here too on the street as well. So, but, and I think the word glamping, it scares people. They just don't know and they don't understand because it's not regulated. It's not like you have to meet a certain criteria. And in our mind, we did envision luxury, not an academy tent, like, so I could understand the fear. Even still, we have people who will come and their spouse will say, yeah, they didn't know we were coming to stay in a tent. And they're blown away when they actually come in. Number one is a 450 square foot tent with a walk-in tiled shower and all the accommodations of a home. So they're shocked by it. So
All great things are though. Like take Uber. Imagine pitching Uber. Yeah, a random person is going to pick up your son or daughter from the
Yeah.
bar and drive them home. Like that's a scary thing to
yes,
pitch to
that's a
someone.
very good analogy.
So you have to all great things are nerve wracking because they're not done until they're done. And when they're done, you then are able, it becomes so obvious.
right.
Yeah.
It becomes, oh yeah, obviously that this would work. But yeah, those same people
When
are
you're
the
the
same
first
people
ones
that are,
who pick it up and you try to tell people about it, they're like, yeah, whatever. You're going to go get these tents and put them up in Wimberley? Like, yeah, that's not going to work. So
okay, so you buy structures and now it's construction time. What does that process look like?
it was big. I mean, I had no idea. Like these decks are incredible. I mean, just to put these decks in, the pylons and the decking. And I said, look, I don't want any wood on the deck because I don't want to have to replace the wood and stain it and clean it. I said, I want to make it where I have to deal with this one time, I want this to be 25 years and then somebody else can think about it. But I wanted something that was going to last 25 years. So, we went above and beyond. We paid more for better items that were going to last the years. So.
And I guess I'm thankful that he's like that. That's another place where we differ because do we really need to spend that many thousands of dollars extra on the treks? Like, do we really need to spend, I'm a little bit more frugal than he is. He overbuilds things. He builds things. He likes the more expensive things. And I'm like, I don't know, do we really need that?
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that we did do that. Between him and the builder, they talked me into the things that we really did need.
Yeah, I think that the number one thing when choosing your structures, if you choose a canvas structure, it's knowing that they are going to depreciate faster than a normal home.
Correct, yes.
And that's the number one con. It's sometimes cheaper to get into canvas structures, and they could profit the same amount. Usually they're a tier less, but they can profit an extraordinarily high amount ADR wise, but you are going to have to end up replacing them quicker. I love the fact that you guys went into the idea of we're going to do a canvas structure, but we're building to last.
Yes.
And that's a great thought process, especially if you have a canvas structure, because that thought process, when you're building a cabin or a home, of course, this is going to last 30 years.
Yeah.
But when you're in canvas structure, that thinking, I think, is super, super important. And I think that if you didn't have that thought process, 5-10 years having to replace this thing would be a headache in itself.
It would be terrible. And when we started, I was 62 years old. It's like
you look great for 60.
Well, I'll be 60.
His wife owns a med spa.
His wife owns a med spa.
I'll be 65 in August. But I was like, I don't want to have to work on this thing all the time. I want it to last. I want to build it one time, and let's build it to last. So, we did put extra in the Trex decking. I got the upgraded Trex decking. I didn't get the base model of it. We put a cedar handrail up, and that lasted 2 days. I said, get rid of those. Let's put Trex up there on the handrail. So
I love it. Mm-hmm. So the architectural design so obviously the structure is the structure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're buying that from a company in South Africa. They're shipping it here. But then there's so much more that goes into the deck in the back, with the pool and the hot tub, and you've developed so many phenomenal experiences. I call it experiential travel because it's not a hotel. It's not you just check in, check out, and it is what it is. Mm-hmm. You're offering an experience. You're offering an experience to get away from the world and really get back in touch with your loved ones.
Right.
And I think that's what you guys are really offering. What was the thought process behind developing the experiences that you did?
Well, we knew the shape of the tents and what we wanted, so we had to kind of do the decks a little bit bigger. And I knew that I wanted, I don't know why or how I knew it. I just we need an outdoor tub, and the pools. So we did just add the pools, but literally they're not even 2 weeks old.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Literally,
they're brand new.
We were closed the month of March for construction for that. I say that we actually did have guests stay through that construction period, which
I would advise not to do that.
The funny thing is we didn't have one complaint, but it was stressful for us.
Yeah.
Because I want their experience to be, perfect. They spend a lot of money to come stay in a tent and have an experience. And I get really upset if somebody's not happy with something.
Yeah, the construction guys want to start at 7 a.m.
Yep.
So they can knock off at 4.
Yep.
But you got a canvas wall. They're here.
They don't want to get up at 7. So
Yeah. So I just knew we were no TVs. I knew that. I knew that I wanted an indoor, full, complete bathroom with, a vanity and toilet. I wanted it to be luxurious, and I mean, there's some places where the bathroom's outside or there's a community bathroom. I'm like, no, they're coming to be together. So let's have them have their own space all together.
I think we really tried to think of what would we like to see if we went on vacation. And that's why we have a lot of board games and no TV and, a really nice bathroom to hang out in and that kind of stuff.
So that strategy in itself is beautiful. And I try to explain that to as many people as I talk to about the space, is design it for you.
Yeah.
Because the odds that there's a higher likelihood that there are people like you that want the same experience that you want than there are the made up idea of possibly the person that you're designing it for in your head, of trying to figure out a person to design it to rather than just designing it for you, because there's a higher likelihood that there are more people like you that want the same experience.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we knew we were only going to be 2 people per tent. So that would be either couples or like girlfriends. We mostly have couples, and I guess it just didn't dawn on me that it would be mostly people celebrating something. And that's been really cool to see that the people are coming for birthdays or anniversaries or honeymoons or baby moons or those kind of things. So we just designed it around that. We're just like, okay, who's our target audience of who we want to have come? Who are our guests? That avatar of it being a couple. And then we built the things around that. So the outdoor tub was huge, a big one. And the pools that we've just built were kind of out of necessity, because last year it was a lot slower in people coming to stay than it was the year before. I think there's a few things that kind of factor into that. But then we said, and on advice of our consultants that we've hired people now to help us run it and help us make the decisions on how are we going to get them more booked again or back up to where they were. They all said water. You need water.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't want, in Texas, it's huge for people to have the water trough pools. Do you know what that is?
Is that like an infinity pool?
No. They're like literally like an animal water trough.
Yeah, it's
the little
silver.
round.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And everybody has those. And Yvette doesn't want anything that everybody else has. So
No. So again, we started researching. I looked at mod pools because I thought that would be great for right under the deck, because our decks go from like 1 foot in the back. Our slope to our property goes up to the front end of the decks are like 20 feet.
8 feet.
Oh, 8 feet.
Yeah.
I'm not very good.
8 feet tall.
Tall.
Yes.
So it goes
8
from,
feet off
It
the
feels
ground.
like 20 feet.
it
I'll tell
does
you
feel
that.
like 20. So I thought, okay, well, we can put the mod pool, which is the only thing I knew of at the time because I kept seeing those on Instagram and everything. And then we just started researching around, and we ended up, if they want privacy, we're going to put pools, and we're going to put a real pool, which we did, in the back. And so that's what we're hoping is going to be the next stage of.
I'll tell you what, the pool in the back with the privacy, I'm not to get too graphic, but your sign said want a spoon, and I went in this
Exactly.
morning.
Yeah, you don't. If you forgot your bathing suit, it's
That's
quite
okay.
all right.
Yeah, I didn't bring one, so I just
Completely private,
went in,
yeah.
and I'll tell you what, there's nothing. I don't think I've had a morning that it was this good in a long time of just waking up and having the dichotomy of the hot tub and then like a really refreshing pool.
Yeah.
Just back and forth. And I did it before I brushed my teeth, and I was like groggy, and I was like, it was magical.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's what we
wonderful.
That's what we want to hear. So
Yeah, it was really, really remarkable. So construction, how long does that take?
about a year.
That was about a year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything goes way longer and again, it was
Costs
only 3
more
decks.
money
What the
than
heck?
you think.
But, I mean, in my mind, I don't think about, they literally are like little houses. You still had to have all the water ran up here and all the electricity run and everything it could have been a cabin, right? So it has to be built just like one of those. I think the only thing but we didn't have any control over this is, at first I wanted 1, but we bought 3. And then
I love that.
the city said we couldn't only have 3. And what was that based on, Ken?
Water consumption.
Yeah, they said if you use a certain amount of water per acre, blah, 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 you are only allowed to have 3 tents. Well, we have room for a 4th. And now if we were to go back and put a 4th one in, because we fell way under what the city thought we were going to use. So we could go back in and put a 4th one. I don't know if we're ready for all that construction again, because we just did another month and a half of pool construction. But I would say for people to put in the most that they can do and afford.
Yes.
All at the
Do it all at one time.
All at one time.
It's cheaper to do it
Yep.
all at one time, even though it's a big bite. If you think you're going to piecemeal it, it costs more to do that.
I ran into that same issue. And I'll take it even a step further. I wanted to test units, and I wanted to start with lower end units. So we did Airstreams and campers and small tiny homes. And I wish but I think there's something there of like, it's a lot to confront. to because you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And I come from parents that are artists. So I did film my entire life. So I knew nothing about construction. The idea of picking up a hammer and nail, I was like embarrassing. So I wish I confronted the concept of construction and what it took and all of that like earlier. But there's also, to go back to what you were saying, is I think it's important to shoot the bullet and then aim.
Yes.
Because a lot of people just continuously just try to aim. Right. And they spend years and years just aiming and aiming and aiming. And sometimes you just got to shoot and then look through the scope.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we got really fortunate because we pulled the trigger and then it just went crazy. And then we had contractors come in who were really good and really bought into the project. And like, we wouldn't have had these concrete sidewalks up here had it not been for one of our subs who just bought in and loved the place. And like, you can't have gravel walkways. They're going to fill your tent up with gravel. So we need to put this in. Like, we didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So
it's so important to have a good team
it really is
of people that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
That's incredible. So you mentioned a little bit about utilities, but I want to dive deeper into utilities. Now, luckily, you have power, water, and septic, I'm guessing, for the med spa.
Yes.
You were able to tie, let's start off with one first, power. Able to just pull up power here, trench some lines and run power.
Yes.
Yeah, we did everything underground. We come into a substation up at the front and then everything underground from there to each tent. So we are definitely part of the grid.
Amazing.
Pull it through.
Underground's a lot more expensive, but if you're wanting to go for a certain aesthetic,
exactly,
you have to do that.
And then, so water the same way, you just run it up there. Now, do you guys have any water storage up here and then gravity fall, or do you just pump everything up?
We pump everything up here. So we're on a city water system.
Oh,
and,
incredible.
Yeah. So you notice our tank at the front up there, that's for fire management. That's 4,500 gallons of water. So
was that for a fire marshal?
Yes.
Either that or we had to put in a fire hydrant.
Yes.
Oh
like we would have had to put the fire hydrant in, and that was the cheaper of the two options. And those big water tanks, the silver tanks that people have around here in the whole country, I like the way they look. I think that they're pretty
I thought it was really aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought it was empty, to be honest with you. I thought it was just like a part of the decor.
No, it's really a fire connection on there and built for
the
fire
thing is
trucks connected.
We as a commercial building had to have that, but the residents right next door did not. But if their house catches on fire, they're coming our thing to put out the fire in their house, which is okay. But that's the difference between being in neighborhood services where you have a commercial business with residents
compared to home. But at least you don't ever have to worry about counties changing residential Airbnb short-term rental laws.
Yeah, I don't
because
Correct.
if it ever changes, if the county, let's say Wimberley in 30 years, too many Airbnbs, too many short-term rentals, and they'll go like, no more short-term rentals for residential properties. Mm-hmm. You'll never have to deal with any changing of regulations. Right. I always suggest if you can go commercial because you'll never have to deal. It opens up so many doors and protects the investment at the same time. You guys could potentially sell alcohol here. You guys can do a wine tasting thing. There's so many more things that you can offer compared to having a residential property, which limits you. And then also it's a little bit riskier because you're not zoned that way.
Right.
Correct.
And like you're talking about all these really cool things, and you don't know all those things and all the rules and the laws until you start to go to the meetings. And that's another thing. I think if somebody's really interested in getting involved, they should start going to city council meetings. They're boring as anything, but go and listen to what they're talking about for other people who are building or who are applying for permits and stuff like that, because that's a whole nother world that we knew nothing about.
I also think
learned on the fly. I
think it's important. It's like, if you want to raise money, make other people money. If you want to have your permits approved, be a part of the community.
Yes.
I tell that to people all of the time. Mm-hmm. If you want to have a smoother permitting process, contribute to your community.
Absolutely.
100%.
Don't come out as, we want to profit from this area and we're not going to help otherwise. Figure out what you can do in the community that your art. So if it does go to a vote for it, you have people in your pocket.
Yeah.
You have people that you've helped. Yeah. And being on the school board and being EMS and then having your clientele here is probably, they know you.
That was a big help for us. So When we said, let us set the standard, they were like, we see what you've done so far. We know what you're going to do, and we trust that. So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so you constructing, is the tent the last thing that you guys put in, or is it the first thing? Where did the structures come in after the deck's built?
Well, the tent has to go up, and then there's a lot of work that goes in. You got to put the walls in. You got to put the plumbing in once the tent is up. So all of this stuff gets built inside. Then the flooring's probably the last thing you do. But it's a long time. The tent was up, and we didn't have doors on it. We had to scoot through this little piece of Velcro over here, and you just took a long time to envision what it was going to look like. And all of a sudden, you cut the front doors, and you look, and you're like, oh, look at that. So, yeah.
I love it. We missed one part of the utilities is my favorite. I call it shit talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of that. Like there's always an issue.
Yeah.
That's always an issue.
It's a big deal.
So, are you guys on septic or
we
city
are
sewer?
on a septic tank, yes. So
one septic for all units?
Yes, we have a septic. So when we bought the place, it had an oversized commercial system with it. So we were like, well, that's awesome. But we had to put in a 2,000-gallon dosing tank. So it's a tank right beside the septic tank, and it just doses water into the septic tank as it can handle it. So, and we've not had, well, we have had a lot of problems with the system itself, but I think a lot of septic tanks have issues. In the rainy season, it'll fill up, and then we have to have it pumped and that kind of stuff. But it's always very manageable. They call me the red light's on. Okay, let me call the guys. So yeah.
Now, that's pretty lucky to have a septic unit that's already installed and ready to rock.
100%, yes.
We're right now digging out our septic, and it is not an easy feat to put in a septic unit.
It is not. It is not. And when I kept saying, well, they say we have an oversized system, everybody at the county was like, yeah, whatever. We hear that all the time, whatever. And then they researched it, and they're like, wow, you really do have an oversized commercial system. And so that really made our lives a lot easier. So.
That's incredible. Also, permitting septic units is what we're dealing with as well.
Yeah.
That's not an easy feat. So it's pretty lucky that you guys, I mean, just from an overall utility standpoint, you guys not being off grid, being able to tie into everything makes life so much easier, especially being in the hill country of Texas.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how hot and humid it gets out here.
Oh, yeah. 110, 115 degrees. So.
And these mini splits are literally saviors.
Yes.
100%.
We've never had a complaint about it being when it's 110 about it not being cool enough.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem we have with the tents is when it's below 20. And here we probably have maybe 4, maybe 5 of those days for a few hours where it's under, 20 degrees. And it's not a problem of the tent. It's the problem of the mini split going into a defrost mode. And during the time when it's defrosting, it gets really cold. So, because we don't have insulation on the sides. I don't even think we have insulation on below, do we? I mean,
We do. We got that closed cell foam sprayed in.
Oh, we did
Yeah.
spray
But
foam.
I did
yeah.
that for noise because, as people are walking through the tent, you don't hear it now in the next tent over because I put closed cell foam underneath. So.
That's we do all that for our tiny homes, and it is incredible technology.
Yes, it is.
It's phenomenal. I think that's my biggest, and I love how you guys have overcame this hurdle, but I think that's my biggest negative to canvas structures is the lack of insulation.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The lack of insulation. Everything else is manageable, right?
Yeah.
Everything else you can kind of work with, but the lack of insulation is probably the hardest, and the wear and tear of the unit.
Yeah.
But the lack of insulation is the hardest. But with these mini splits, you have one in the bedroom and then one in the bathroom, and that's plenty of AC.
Yeah. I have a 3-ton unit underneath with I could put up to 4 heads on that unit down there. So
Again, he overbuilt it. It's a big unit for 450 square feet.
But I'm going to tell you that my electricity bill for this whole 3.2 acres is less than my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we know why that
It's
is?
just these units are so efficient.
Yeah.
And the med spa, I had it sprayed with spray foam, and it's like a igloo cooler in there. So it's
incredible.
just, yeah. which is incredible because the R value is all they talked about. We had this inspector came in, the R value. I said, it'll probably be all right. And these really incredible units really keep up with it.
I just learned that it's 1 inch per, 1 inch of closed cell spray foam is an R value of 7.
Yes.
And in Arizona, for us, we're in the high desert. We have to have R30 minimum. Mm-hmm. So we have to basically, it's a whatever that calculation is.
Yeah.
But
you must have all 2x6 walls everywhere.
All 2x6 walls, 2x12 rafters.
Yeah.
It's a whole nightmare.
Yeah.
But it becomes so worth it because not the energy loss that you have is so much less when you have that closed cell instead of the fiberglass.
Yeah.
That it becomes so much worth it because you'll save money on the back end of your utility bill.
Yeah.
That's enough talking.
That's another one of those things, though, to put it in right the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do it right the first time.
Okay, so structures go up. You finally get this thing built. Utilities are in. Are you where's the headspace at this point?
I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to tell you that first weekend was the most beautiful weekend ever for me. I mean, my whole life changed on that weekend that we opened.
Tell me.
We had an influencer come, and she fell in love with the place, and her influence was so incredible. We booked up every week and every weekend for like 4 months, 3 months.
No way.
Just from one influencer coming here and doing her.
How did you guys meet this influencer? Who is the influencer?
Amanda with SA Foodie, but she changed and also has now just a travel one because she was kind of struggling with, do I just do food?
Yeah.
She's out of San Antonio. Or do I like travel? So she was kind of doing both from her SA Foodie Instagram page, but then she became Texas.explorer.
Amazing.
But she came to us when she was SA Foodie. And another friend that owns some glamping said, be prepared. It's going to be like drinking out of a water hose. She contacted us because I had been posting.
Yes.
So again, we're both old. I mean, I'm pushing 60 and he's in his 60s.
Well, you guys look phenomenal.
Well, thank you. We own a med spa.
Yeah.
So I'm smart enough to know how young people, I mean, like back in the day, we did yellow page ads and then we did maybe radio or if you would do TV, but that's not what people do today. So I was trying my hand as much as I could with the process of it, showing people what we were going to be doing. And she happened to be following me. And I had quite a few people reaching out saying, I want to be who announces your opening first. I want to be first.
Yeah. Yvette started blogging and showing pictures of the tents going up and all of that, and started getting a little following. And these influencers were saying, I want to be the first to come there.
So what's that like? What's not having any, I'm guessing you guys weren't big social media people at the time. What was that barrier to overcome educationally wise, understanding what influencers were?
It was a little bit for me because I had run for state representative in 2018. So I understood a little bit about social media.
But you didn't manage it. Somebody else did. He
somebody
just knew
else
he had
did,
to do it.
But I knew that you have to be on social media.
Yeah.
But more than that, I had no idea.
We do some with the med spa as well. But, we're not targeting people outside of Wimberley. I mean, I can tell the person in the grocery store, come see me, But here we have to get people outside of Wimberley to come see us. So the way you do that now is via social media. So I just, started doing it and it was a whole nother animal. It's another whole aspect of this thing that if you think you've got down the vacation rental part of it and you got everything perfect, if you're not good at that, you might as well just hand in the towel because that's the only way you're going to get your place booked. You can and also I took vacation rental boot camp. I took
vacation rental boot camp.
Yes. And I said, I just came back from the glamping summit and I flew straight from there to this vacation rental boot camp. And it was these two ladies that put it on, Tyann Merrick, and I can't remember the other lady, but they teach you everything about vacation rentals. I just came out of that being scared to death. And we happen to have a friend that's here in Wimberley who she was starting to really get into the helping vacation rental people market their own place. And she really explained to us, don't call them an Airbnb. It's a vacation rental because you're working for Airbnb then is what you're doing. So, and she was really taught us about the importance of book direct. Her name is Jody Bourne with Bourne Marketing, and she's been wonderful. She really helped us. She put together our website. Super, super important. And I knew enough to know I don't want us to just be on Airbnb. Or VRBO. That's not going to get us enough. And you have to, all the fees. It makes me irritated when I have to pay all the fees. I want them to book direct. But how do you become important enough for people to say, I'm just going to go to their website and book it? And I took some classes from her because she's got a whole class regimen on how to start. And we did dabble with it ourselves with vacation rental. Doing all the bookings ourselves. It was just too much. I can't run a business and be a provider, and he can't run an EMS service and do this. So I said, okay, we're just going to have to find somebody to do that part for us. But I knew that the social media part of it was huge. And Amanda, like literally, she came, stayed her 2 days. She did her posts. And I think we had in 4 days, $20,000 worth of bookings.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That makes you feel a lot better because, and Ken's not telling the truth about not worrying. This man, when we're in the middle of a project, doesn't sleep. He doesn't eat. He's sick. He worries to tears about things. And then I think that weekend probably helped him feel like, okay, maybe she's right. Maybe this is the right thing to do. Because it is scary.
Yeah.
It's
all your
a
money.
lot of money to build something like this.
A lot of money.
And you have no idea how many things you have to know. You have to know how to get sheets. You have to know how to get somebody to clean those sheets and make the bed and clean the place. Soap and shampoo and, just things you don't... I had no idea what you had to think about.
And a guest calling you at 11 p.m. saying, how does this air conditioning work?
Yeah. The faucet won't come on. And you come up here and you go, you have to
and
pull the thing over like this. Oh, I thought I was doing it like that. Okay. Yeah. So,
it happens all of the time.
Yeah.
You are not alone.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
We do all of our own management and it's the same thing. But I say that I love short-term rental guests, but they are not the brightest.
Right. Exactly right.
And
here, you know what? They're here to relax. That's what they want to do. They don't want to think. They don't have to think it through. They just want to come and relax. And when they want it to work, it needs to work. And if it doesn't work immediately, they're going to call somebody. That's what they do. So, okay, well, let's go look at it and see. So.
Yep. Okay, so property goes up. You have Amanda come shoot the property. She posts about it. You already have a direct booking website
Yes.
up. Do other booking platforms that you guys are on are Airbnb as well?
We didn't get on anything at first.
Okay. So it was just direct booking at first?
Yes. Jody,
Incredible.
About 4 months into being open, Jody got us, because I didn't even have the time to sit there and research how to get us listed on Airbnb. And so she helped us with that. She got us on Airbnb. And in all truthfulness, nothing, again, because I'm an Airbnb person. If I go someplace, I might look and rent that way too. But we prefer book direct people. I will tell you there's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
The people who book direct, they rarely will have a request or a complaint. The people on Airbnb are nonstop.
So there's a couple things there that I really want to dive into and I think is very important for people who want to start a business like this to understand. One, you mentioned about brand. And brand is everything.
Yes.
Especially in our business, because what it does is provide credibility. Mm-hmm. Because when you post something and they see Yvette and Ken on social media built Spoon, they understand and they're now invested into the property because they feel like they've known you. That's why influencers are so successful, because the consumer feels like they have seen their life and they want to support their life. Mm-hmm. And that's what creating a brand for your property really does. If you just name this place Glamping Wimberley, people wouldn't care as much as understanding the character of Spoon Mountain Glamping, understanding who the owners are, understanding the lifeblood behind the business and the property, and they dive into that. And that's why I think that there's such a difference. There's such a disconnect between guests and Airbnb and you, because there's this middle business corporate entity that's kind of, they own the consumer, but you're then providing the experience, and they don't feel connected to you, so that when they write if they write a bad review, they might be thinking from, oh, this is going to affect Airbnb. This isn't going to affect a small business. Right. Mm-hmm. But when someone who sees you on social media, goes to your direct booking, they know that they're directly impacting positively and negatively you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really beautiful to being able to, but it's a tough confront. At the same time, you then have to get the consumer.
Yes.
Yes.
And you have to be that middle part.
Yeah.
And I think that's where influencer marketing and building a brand is very, very important.
100%. And
instinct.
I've never thought about it like that before, but that makes total sense. So, yeah.
And I guess just my instinct was telling me those things. Like, I think that we need to build a brand. I mean, I guess I have built a brand with the med spa, but it's easy to do when you're in a small town and, you're on the husband's on the school board and so that's easier. But when you're trying to reach the masses, it's different. So I knew, okay, we have to build a brand. So we're putting our logo on everything and we're telling our story. And when you go to our website, you see a picture of Ken and I sitting in Adirondack chairs right next to each other. And, so it is but I learned those things. I think part of it was instinct, but then going to those classes or going to vacation rental summit things, I think that you learn a lot in those kind of things. I wish we could do just this full time because I enjoy this, but I would miss what I do as well. But there's only one of me and I can't do all of them.
Yeah.
So this one's the easiest one to pass off and let other people manage now because just our time is we don't have enough hours in the day. Our children are off now and they're in college and living on their own. And so now we are to the point to where, well, kind of what's next? What do we do next? I was just asking him that. I'm like, what would we do? Would we want to stay in vacation rental? Because I think we both really enjoy that. We enjoy talking with the people.
I love that personal aspect.
Yeah, he loves
of it.
that.
Coming up and meeting the guest and seeing how they enjoy it. And so.
Yeah, and there's something so special about when someone leaves and they just leave you that 4 or 5 sentence note of saying this, you have no idea the experience that you offered us and what that did for us.
Yeah, that surprised me. I will say, I wanted us to build it, but I didn't realize that we were going to affect people that much. When you read their stories in your book, and that someone came because they just lost a baby and they wanted, the husband wanted to take the wife and come for a weekend and just kind of get away from it all, no electronics, everything. And then in the very next tent, they're celebrating that they just got pregnant. Hearing those stories, I was shocked at how much it affected me. I was like, wow, we are doing something for all these other people. And that's pretty cool. That made me feel really, really good. I enjoyed that.
I love that.
So,
yeah, I think it goes back to what impact. Fast forward, you're 90, you're 100, sitting on your deathbed and being, what impact did I have on this planet? And from a very macro standpoint, being able to sit back and say, we had 3 kids? 2 beautiful kids, and thousands of people, we made just their one night better.
Yeah.
Connected. Yeah.
And I think that there's something so beautiful about that, and being able to do what you guys do is really, really, really remarkable. So you guys are on direct booking, which I think is so crucial. And you guys, I mean, it's really incredible to see what you guys build, but then also once you build a product, you have to then sell the product. And I always tell people that if you invest in a good product, the selling of a good product becomes 10 times easier.
Absolutely.
And when people have to sell like crazy when they don't build a good enough product, and people then, if they're not good at selling, they then have to market even better than they sell.
Yeah.
And when you build a great product, the marketing, the selling kind of dissipates into a lot, just a more confrontable standpoint.
Yeah.
there's something really special about you snap a photo at this property, and that is the marketing. Any person that comes here, they take a photo and it's just, ooh, what's that?
Right.
That's been one of my biggest compliments, is I had a guest come and say, we got exactly what we saw online. Like, you didn't doctor it up, you didn't make it better. We saw this online, we came here, and we got exactly what we saw online. So
That's
I thought that was a
incredible.
gigantic compliment for us. So
That's like hitting the bullseye right there.
Yeah.
Is having perception of social be reality is I think the hardest thing to do as a short-term rental host, and accomplishing that is just a testament to what you guys have done and what you guys have built.
But you have to keep changing too. I
Okay.
mean, and growing. So, we started off, we did really well that first year. We opened in April of 2021. And then I think it was the perfect storm of right after COVID and people kind of venturing out. They were sick of being in their homes. They wanted to staycation. They wanted to stay kind of close. They were still scared. And the social media thing. So it was the first, round of that. So we were really very well. The second year, 2022, we did better. We did incredible. And we were still managing it ourselves then. And lots of influencers. Again, that's a whole thing in and of itself. Like picking out who the influencers are. Do you pay them? Do you not pay them? There's an art to all of that. And I don't have the time to figure that out. So that's why I have my management company doing it for me. And then last year, it slowed down. And we were kind of freaking out a little bit. We're like, what the heck?
Can I push you to talk a little bit about numbers? Occupancy rate in the
Absolutely.
first couple years were roughly what?
Well, we just did the numbers financially. So the first year we did like
well, let's talk about occupancy
yeah,
rate. So I think we
can't
were like
remember.
88, 89% booked the first year.
Incredible. Direct booking.
Yes. And
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
90%
all-
of that,
yeah.
95% of that was direct booking.
And
we
then
did
5%
have a little,
from like Airbnb.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah. Second year, we were probably 80.
I'd say 60, 70, about 75.
Yeah.
75% booked in 2022.
And this is a nightly rate of,
At that point, we were 300 to 350.
Okay.
Maybe we ventured up a couple of the special weekends to $400 a night. For a midweek stay, we never really went below 250.
okay. Which there's a whole strategy in itself there, because we've tried knocking down prices. Because we, on our Airstreams, we're about 150, and then we'll drop down to 100. And then for our tiny homes, we're around 300, 400. But we've found that if we're consistent at that 150 mark on our Airstreams, we drop below 100. I still don't know how to correctly state this, but it starts attracting an undesirable
Yes.
guest.
Exactly right. Mhm.
And the guests that pay less want more and
Yeah.
complain more and have unreasonable expectations on a property, where the higher people pay, the less
That's a weird phenomenon,
it's
right?
it's backwards for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it is a weird phenomenon. We've discovered that as well.
And so I took the strategy of I'd rather lose out on a couple days and nights to keep a high value customer than drop it below just to fill in the extra $100.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then in 2023, I think we were only 50, if we were even 50% booked. Every weekend was booked, of course. But,
course.
we want the middle of the week, and that's the most important. So, so we were trying to figure out why, like what's happened. Well, I know because we lived it ourselves. Like we actually went to Italy last year. I think everybody in Texas went to Italy, because everybody we talked to went to Italy, and people feel more comfortable traveling abroad and going away. And that's where they're spending their money. So how do we get them back here? And, so that's been a little bit challenging. So our consultants, OASI has said, look, you need to be one of one. And what's going to make you guys stand out? And we already knew the pool thing. We had, because I wanted to do pools from the very beginning, but that just wasn't in the budget. So we did decide, and we bit the bullet and said, this was in the fall of this last year. okay, we're gonna go ahead and put in pools, but we're gonna make them be real pools, not a water trough. And because in Wimberley, if you didn't have water, or even if you were on water, like we have a really beautiful river that goes through Wimberley, but it dried up. Like literally, we're in stage 4 drought. So you couldn't swim in the swimming holes because the water wasn't good.
They were closed down. Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, we know a pool we can constantly manage, and it was worth it for us to go ahead and take out a loan.
That was a big bite.
I know it was.
I can only imagine the conversation of Ken being like, "Do we really need this though?"
I know. And
oh yeah, I was up at 4 o'clock this morning thinking about this. Yeah.
But you guys have incredible. They're septic tanks. Not to dive too deep into the pool idea, but you have.
They're cool.
This is a phenomenal.
Concrete precast pools is what they are. So a septic tank business took one of their molds, cut it in half, redesigned it, put steps and a sun deck on it, and then put those 2 molds together, and now they precast those pools with that.
Genius.
They ship those pools to your place. We dug 62 inches down into solid rock and set those pools down in there. The hardest part was getting the deck built so that it didn't look like, oh, that's an afterthought. That deck, when you walk out there now, it looks like, oh, this pool's always been here. But there again, that's good subcontractors who come in and buy into your project, and they go, oh, that's the same guy who put our concrete sidewalks in, same guy who built that water retention over there and all of that. So I think he did a phenomenal job of putting those decks in and making it where it looks like it's always been there. So
it's incredible.
Yeah.
We're just banking on, we'll make the money back from that and we'll be booked. And I will tell you, we did have a video from my marketing team that went viral. And this was not from an influencer. This was just on our own. This was the team.
Organic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we already have 4.1 million views.
That's amazing.
He cracked the code. He's like, I cracked the code. So, and I think we have another one that's right around within that 2-week time that's over 1 million now. And, they're still tweaking it though. They're figuring out, because he said, you've had, I don't know how they know all these numbers. Because again, this is not my forte. You give me some Botox and a needle and I'm really good. But he said, you've had 16,000 clicks to your website in a matter of whatever, 2 days. And that should be like a 1% conversion rate. And you're not getting that. So we need to go back and figure out what's going on with your website.
Yeah. It's from a marketing background, it's quickness of purchase. So having basically the ability to click twice and complete your purchase.
Yeah.
So it's the number of buttons that you press is the fallout. You get like anywhere from like a half. So like if 5 people come on the website, every click you're going to lose half people. Half of those people. So 5 goes to 2.5, 2.5 goes to 1.2. Mm-hmm. That's what we found, at least for us, is that every click we lose a certain amount of people. So decreasing the number of clicks.
That's what we're learning.
Yeah.
And our book now tag was over here. And our guy says it needs to be right here.
Now, isn't that so interesting? I think it's pretty amazing. And this is a controversial opinion. I think it's pretty amazing that you do one thing and then you have to learn the next thing. Yeah. I love education. I dropped out of college, but I love American school system is a whole different topic that I'm not a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that being said, learning in general and education in general is so beautiful. And I think that it's important to always be curious about what you're doing next and learning what you're doing next. I think there's so many different avenues that you have to learn in this.
I will say, as an entrepreneur, you better be learning something every day because it never stops. You're never going to go, okay, it's done. Yeah, this project's done. It never happens that way because every day is something new we have to do. And it's hard work, but it's rewarding. It doesn't feel like work, but every day you're learning something new.
And especially with social media, you learn social media and then they change the algorithm.
And then they change it.
And then you're like, no, I have to learn a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we put those signs back there and that again, was just something I know people want to take a picture in front of something.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, poor Ken, he's got a list of honeydews. I come up with the ideas, but I'm like, okay, this is what I want. Now make it.
Yeah.
And I said, I want this
neon
sign. And I ordered my neon letters, and I'm like, it's going to be easy. You just take plywood and you just build this, and we stick some greenery on there, and it says "Want a spoon." Isn't that cool? And Ken doesn't sleep, and then he avoids it. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, come on, let's go buy the wood right now. Let's go make this sign. But it makes a big difference, because that back there makes somebody want to stand in front of it and say, yeah, this is where I stayed. People want that moment.
Did you turn
that
the
they
neon
saw.
on?
I didn't, but I followed the instructions.
Okay.
So I feel like whether I took a photo in front of it or not, I followed the instructions. And I think that's
good.
That's all
That's
that.
good.
Okay. So I really want the lifeblood behind the organization, right, is not as much as it is you guys. The lifeblood behind what we do is the people that work behind the scenes. It's the handyman, it's the cleaners, it's the day-to-day operational people. As you guys have to be 50,000 feet above looking down, you have to have day-to-day people.
Yes.
What does your dream team look like? What is your the
We're
people
blessed.
that run the...
We are blessed, because that will either make or break you. And I've learned that in my med spa business as well. So we have a manager on site. And when we actually turned over the management team to an organization or a company to do it for us, they probably could have done all of it, but I didn't want that. We wanted, Yvonne is our manager here, and she probably works about 20 hours a week, probably more than that, but because she's the one who'll get the call in the middle of the night if they really need something tended to. And she's been wonderful. She's been incredible. And she's the one who will come in after the cleaners to make sure that everything is really perfect. But our cleaning team is incredible as well.
They are incredible, yes.
Yeah.
And what I love is they have our schedule. We don't have to call them. We don't do anything. They know when somebody checks out, they come in, they fix it. We trust them to do that.
Did you guys have to go through multiple cleaners? Or
Yes.
Do you want us to grab you a water?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to ask that question again.
Okay.
Did you guys have to go through multiple cleaners?
Multiple cleaners. Yes, we did. We thought we were going to be able to use these people. I think that when they got in here and realized, they thought it's going to be easy. That's going to be an easy job. And it's harder. It's harder to clean a small little 450 square foot vacation rental home than it is to clean a house. So
And it's harder to clean canvas structure than it is to clean a normal home
yeah.
because you are not airtight.
That's
Right.
exactly right.
And so dust and dirt
And critters and
Yep.
stuff getting in. But we have a team now that's just incredible. So
isn't it amazing that you don't understand what a good cleaner is until you get a good cleaner?
yes.
And I thought we had a good cleaner, and then when I hired a good cleaner, I realized what good cleaning was and the importance of that. And it's so amazing when you find the correct team that you have and how much easier it makes as a business.
Yes. Yeah. And that's normally like a pass through, like we'll charge the guest for the cleaning fee. And they're worth every single penny. And so we don't make a profit off of them, what we're getting. We literally, like, our cleaners will get what they're worth because they're always here. They're reliable. I just hope that they never go. If we need extra little jobs, like, can you power wash the decks? They can always do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the handyman is Ken.
Anytime something's broken, call Ken. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, my favorite part of the podcast is called The Hills We Die On. And it's things that you guys will not, what's a good way to compromise with guests' requests on. For example, we have a tiny home. In the bed, we do not put a curtain because I like the idea of waking up with the sun. People hate it. I don't care. It's my tiny home. If you like this, I'm not doing it. TVs is another thing, and you mentioned is we don't do TVs. Now, I might compromise on the curtain idea of the tiny home, but the TVs is like a non-negotiable because of what experience we want to offer. Are there hills that you guys will die on?
Well, I did have one with my designer because she did not want the curtain in between the bathroom and the living area. And I wanted the curtain.
What did she want?
Nothing.
She just wanted it open.
Open.
Oh, wow.
This curtain right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And-
little intrusive.
Yeah. But I mean, she's a run around naked kind of a girl. And I'm like, give me my towel and my robe and my curtain and my. So, like, I would not be back there commando in our deck but Ken would be, So there's just different personality types. And I said, no, we're putting a curtain. So, but I think my hill to die on, this is a hard one. And we had talked about it a little bit before. Because we want everybody to come and experience this. And we even so much so that we built one tent specifically handicap accessible. And we're trying to make our pool now handicap accessible to be able to accommodate that because I want everybody to enjoy this. But it drives me crazy when there's people who will say or abuse I have a service animal. Can I please bring my service animal? And I know that's a fine line, and I don't mean to make anybody angry, but I'm going to tell you, in my experience, more often than not, it's somebody who just wants to bring their fluffy, their little pet. It's not really a service animal. We have had people come stay with service animals, and they have all the documentation, and I'm more than happy to do that. Our management company says, Yvette, don't get so caught up in it. It's fine. But we have African safari tents that we can't just go down to Home Depot and get another piece of wood to replace where a dog had an accident on our $25,000 African safari tent. It can't be changed or fixed.
Yeah.
So,
or you can't re-drywall a piece of
right. Yes.
Interior wall.
That's
Yes.
right.
I get it. Yeah.
So now I hate that because I feel like there's people who abuse it and there's people who really need it. And I really want the people who really need it to come and please enjoy it. But it bothers me that there's the few people that ruin it for everybody else in that genre of people. Because, I mean, I have friends that do it who say, yeah, I got the paperwork and I can take my dog wherever I want to. And I'm like, that's not a service dog. That dog, it's an emotional support dog. You might feel like you can't go anywhere without your dog, but I bet you do.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you here. I brought my dog on a flight like all the time. And so I'm in the category of abusing it for Delta. So Delta can hate me, but I don't bring it to other resorts. So
yeah, it's a fine line. Like, we have a cute little motto here that says babies are made here. They don't stay here, because we wanted to create something. But, if you have a dog that somebody left in their place and is barking because they went out to dinner, that's not fair to the guest that's right next to them,
Yeah.
or the baby crying and they wanted to get away from their kids for the weekend. So that might be my hill to die on is I just want to make sure that people don't abuse it. It's more about the principle of it than anything else, because I want them to come. And, I want to be able to create something. But
what about you, Ken?
I'm thinking, I don't know.
it's pretty easy going.
I really don't know. I mean, we've not ever had a guest ask for anything that I didn't feel was extremely unreasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, we have had people come in and abuse our property, but I just think that's common courtesy. I don't think it was anything that I needed to change. Or
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Let me ask you this. I'm very curious about working with a spouse. And I think that is, I'm not married. And it's something that I want to do one day, is I want my wife and I to be a team and work together.
Mm-hmm.
What, Ken, I'm going to have you answer this question first, and then Yvette, I'm going to have you answer
Okay.
this after.
Yep.
Ken, what do you think that Yvette's most admirable trait is that you might be lacking in?
her style by far. I mean, she knows when something's nice. And so me, like, I would never buy the lamps that are in this right here for the amount of money that she paid for these lamps right here. But these lamps really they're very nice. But if it would have been me, no, I wouldn't have bought these lamps. So it's her style, it's her vision, it's her her bravery. I mean, she can just jump into things, and me, I just assume like, well, I don't think we should do that. That's a lot of money. Like the pools, I was like, I don't know. But now that we have them, I love the pools. I think they're great. I think they're going to do well, and I think they're going to bring people here. But it's her vision and her forethought and her style, the way she sees things ahead of time. So yeah, I think that's what it is. So, and it took me a long time to learn to trust that, because there's been so many properties. She said, we should buy that property. And I'm like, no. And then somebody buys it and makes, $3 million off of it the next year. I'm like, oh, we should have bought that property. It's like, I told you we should have bought that property.
Yvette's just sitting there like,
yeah. So it's really something I've had to learn to trust. And, I never owned a business before I met her. When I met her, she owned a hair salon. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's brave to do that. And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is just having to learn to trust her intuition, I guess, and her vision and forethought. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yvette?
What was the question?
Yvette's like, no answer. What is your favorite thing about Ken that you think, or his greatest strength that you might be lacking in?
Yeah, personality for sure. He's a good manager, a very good manager. Like when things start getting rough, I'm like, I'm out. Bye-bye. That guest isn't happy. You're going to talk to him. That's you. Cause he's incredible with, he's done it before. He can actually fire someone, tell them, I'm sorry, you're not going to work for this job. And that person come back and say, thank you. That actually, you were right. He just has a way with communication skills and handling people and managing people. And he's patient. He's very, very patient, especially with me, because you can, I get, as my personality, being a woman, I don't know, being a New Yorker, riled up about stuff and excited about stuff. And he'll just lean back and wait and know the right team. He's got good timing, because he'll know when to say something and know when not to say something. So, but I think that we really are a good team. We're rarely argue. Like, I think some couples, they embrace like the arguing. That's what they know. And I don't know. But we just don't do that. We've never done that. We've always been able to communicate and get over things. And as I said, I don't just love them, but I like them, and if all of this fell away and we didn't have anything and we truly had to go buy a travel trailer and live in that, I'd be happy. So I'm blessed. I feel blessed.
That's amazing.
So
I love this. My last question for you guys is, again, what I think that we're offering isn't just a place to stay, right? It's an opportunity to disconnect from the world and reconnect with your loved ones. And I guess the last question is there a story that defines your why, of why you're doing this, and solidify that this is the right idea or the right business and the right thing to do, not only financially, but also just morally and for you as a person?
I think for me, the books that are in the room that the people write in, and hearing, it's so intimate when we read what they've written about why they're here, or that is validating to me to know that we're making that difference. On our fire pit down there by the pavilion, the Boma area, our fire pit is engraved with the words, collect moments, not things. And even if people didn't think that they were going to experience that, something happens when they get here. And they do. Like they didn't know that they were going to enjoy not having the TV and pick up the book of questions and asking their spouse, who they've known for 50 years, a question that they didn't know the answer to find out something even more about them. So reading in those little books for me was real, I really enjoyed that part of it. I'll go, a second I come in to any tent, I go straight to the books because I want to read
Is there a story that sticks
kind
out
of
to you?
thing. I think the weekend, because it really was very powerful. The same weekend, the two of the tents, one had written that they had lost a child and during pregnancy, and that they came to relax. And then in the very next tent, I mean, it's just like the circle of life. They were celebrating their baby moon, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that's huge. That's like, it gives you goosebumps. Real life things are happening here, and that makes me emotional. It makes me happy. So anyway.
It's beautiful. Ken?
My favorite thing is talking to the guest, and that the surprise, my wife said she was bringing me to stay in a tent, and then we walked in and it was like, oh my gosh. And I love hearing those stories. And people who've been staying recently, they're like, we were shocked. We did not know there were pools here. The pool has been my favorite part of the whole thing. And just the surprise that people get when they actually come here. They see it online and it's like, yeah, whatever. And then they walk in and it's like, wow, this is really what you said it is. And, that's been very validating for me. It's like, this is a lot of hard work. There's a lot of worry that goes with this. And just, but then when guests come and they experience and they go, this is incredible. I've loved not having a TV. I've loved just talking to my wife. I've loved sitting on the bed and playing a game, or, people just don't play board games anymore. They just don't, But then they come here and they relax, or I'll walk out and they'll be down in the pavilion and they're playing Yahtzee or whatever on the big table down there, and you hear them laughing and holding hands and that kind of stuff. But that's incredible. You just don't see that anymore, You don't see this all the time. They have that phone all the time. Here, you see them, and they're talking, and they're giggling down there, or they're walking around, or they're in the pool, or, it's very validating for the worry that, you go through. It's a lot of work. I don't want anybody to think this isn't just an easy thing. It's a lot of work, and it's validating to hear people laugh when they're here. So, yeah.
It's incredible. Well, Ken, Yvette, thank you guys so much for sharing some insights. And more importantly, thank you guys so much for the experience that you guys are offering. I truly believe that what you guys are doing is impacting the world and human beings at such a human instinct level that it's really, really remarkable. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you guys for being on this podcast. And I couldn't have asked for a better set of people on the podcast. So I appreciate y'all.
Well, thank
you very much.
It's an honor.
Yes, it is an honor.